Hello and welcome back to the WarmJuniper Knits podcast. I believe this is episode possibly 7. Today is Sunday, December 18th, and my name is Christine. I'll be your host. This is a knitting, spinning, and other crafting kind of podcast, and it's been about a month since I last recorded, which the more I get into this just seems kind of to be when I have enough stuff to really justify sitting down and talking, and also just kind of fits with my schedule. So I've decided, instead of worrying about it, that's just what it's going to be. So if you are coming back after a month, thank you so much for sticking with the podcast, I guess. And if you're new, welcome. I have, because it's been a month, a considerable amount of things to talk about today, both in the works in progress realm and also some finished things. So we're gearing up towards Christmas. Christmas is this Saturday. It's this Saturday, which blows my mind a little bit. I guess it's just something about maybe getting older, or maybe having a work schedule that kind of just propels you through each week, and thus each month, and then years just, they evaporate. So Christmas now sneaks up on me, instead of as a younger kid having it be like the whole month of December feeling like an eternity. So that's definitely happening. I had not really intended to do gift knitting or crafting this year, and I kind of have and I kind of haven't. So I have a better handle nowadays on who in my life really likes handmade gifts, and who, while they might appreciate them, probably wouldn't get as much use out of them as some other people. So that has made it a lot easier to decide what gifts I do want to make, and what ones, family members or friends might appreciate something else. So that helps. Anyway, that's a little bit of a tangent. Let's talk first about finished objects. So I don't have any knitting finished objects, but I do have some other crafty finishes, and I guess I'll show them now, I guess I'll show them now. So last time I recorded, I was about halfway through with this, which is a, I don't think that's going to, there we go, reverse that. This is a Mean Girls sampler kind of thing for my sister. So it's just the letters and then the little flowery border type thing. I hope you can't hear the guest bathroom flushing. That would be awful. Anyway, that's washed up. Okay, there it is. This is a pattern from Steph Stitch on Etsy, and she's got a bunch of these subversive kind of cross-stitch projects. So if you like your cross-stitch a little bit sassy, maybe, then check out her shop, because she's got tons of great patterns. This is one of them. This was really the first cross stitch I've ever done, and I think it went okay. It was a good starter project just because it's pretty simple and it's not humongous, but I kind of had to figure out how to carry my thread around and do stuff like restart threads. So the back is kind of a mess, which I am coming to learn is something you want to keep an eye on, I guess, when you're stitching, is to keep your backs neat. So, but as a first attempt, that's not too bad. So this will go in a hoop frame sometime later today, hopefully. I did wash this. I just dunked it in the sink with a little bit of warm water and Dawn soap. They recommend that just so you get the oils from your hands that, get on the Aida cloth off. And it didn't make a huge difference in terms of the actual stitches. In fact, they're kind of a mess, and I might actually wash it again because I was trying to get my grid lines off, which I did in graphite with a mechanical pencil based on this tutorial that I saw on YouTube. And apparently you're supposed to be able to erase them with an artist's eraser, like a white eraser, which I might actually have. Yeah, like one of these. Just these white erasers that you can get at any craft store. And it did a decent job, but I can definitely still see the grid lines. And I think a lot of them will be outside of the hoop when I do get this in the hoop, so I'm not terribly worried about it, but I think next time I will, if I do a piece that needs to be gridded, then I will just do like the corners and maybe the middle with some floss instead of doing the pencil, because it didn't really, I don't know if you can kind of see. That's so bright, I'm sorry. There you go, you can kind of see where the grid is, so anyway, that is done. Needs to be ironed, like I said, so we'll do that. And then I am also in the process of making a set of ornaments for my coworker and her family. So she's got 2 little girls and her husband. So these are just 4-inch hoops, and each one has a motif for that member of her family. So this is hers. Her name's Yasko, and she raises peacocks for fun. So this is a peacock feather, and I have no idea who the pattern designer is. I got all of these by looking at free patterns on Pinterest. I'll dig them out and put them in the show notes, but I cannot tell you from the life of me who actually made these. But anyway, there's my peacock feather, which I'm actually super pleased with. It looked really funky with just the little middle motif, but what I actually did was that darker blue along the outside. I enlarged it a little bit. I just did an extra row around, and then the gold floss around it. I think it really turned out neat. So I'm pretty happy with that. Also, I had to learn how to backstitch, which is an embroidery technique that I've never done either. So had some success there, pretty happy with that. And if you're interested, there's the back, getting a little bit better. The one that I finished is for her youngest daughter, who's 6 and who loves pigs. So they live out of town a little bit, and they have kind of a semi-farm branch thing they raise. They have donkeys and chickens and peacocks, and one thing that they would really like to do that they've been talking about is getting pigs and raising pigs for 4-H for their girls. So the youngest one loves pigs, and she got a little piglet. So this one, actually, I do remember this one. This one's from Free Pattern on the DMC website. DMC's the brand for the floss. So that one came from the DMC website. And there's the back. So those 2 are finished. I'm about 70%, 75% done with this next one. So I guess that's all my finished objects, but since I'm doing the stitching stuff now, I'll just continue with that. So work in progress. This is my next one. This is going to be it's a stag silhouette for her husband who hunts. So I've got a little bit more to go on the bottom that'll kind of V down, and then there will be the other antler there. So there's that one. I did that just this morning, and it's a lot easier to work with one thread color than multiple ones. So that's the neatest I've ever done the back, and it looks really funny. It comes in horizontal lines, because what I would do is what I guess is called railroading or cross country, I think. But what it is you stitch half of your crosses go in one direction, and then you cross them on the way back. And what that ends up doing is you go in the stitch below, so you end up with those horizontal lines, which I think looks kind of neat. So this is what I will finish working on as soon as I'm done recording this. And then for her other girl, who is 11 and a humongous Harry Potter fan, she'll get some kind of Harry Potter motif, maybe a golden snitch, or maybe Harry's glasses with the lightning bolt. So we'll see. It kind of depends on what I can find. So those are my cross-stitching projects. I don't really know how much cross-stitch stuff that I will do after this season is over. I have a few other projects that I'm working on. One is a wedding anniversary sampler, I guess. I don't even know if I'm using the word sampler correctly, because it's not a variety of techniques, but it's just another like motif, I guess, for my brother and sister-in-law. They got married last November, and I found this pattern. It was really, really adorable, which is two droids, two R2-D2 droids next to each other, and the designer had done them some neat stuff with the colors, and then you can put the date, their wedding date, below that, and it was really cute, and also pretty simple. So I'm not fast at this at all, not even remotely. It takes about, I think it took me like 4 hours to do this pig. Here it is. Yeah, like 4 hours to do this, which is pretty heavy coverage in there, but still, between the counting and the changing the stitch colors and stuff, took me forever. It's going much quicker now that I have a little bit better handle on the technique, and also my, just getting used to working with the Aida cloth and my hand-eye coordination with the needle and getting it to come up where I need it to. So, anyway, I don't think those R2-D2s will take terribly long. I don't need to have that finished until after Christmas, because they are actually at her parents' place in Idaho and not with my family this year, so I won't see them until after the holiday, and that gives me a little bit of a buffer. I also have a couple other gift things in mind, but until I get started on them, I won't go into great detail. So, works in progress with knitting. Have quite a few of those. So if you follow me on Instagram, you may have seen the saga of these green mittens that I've been working on. So this is just regular old Cascade 220 Superwash. I've had it in the stash for ages, and it has tried to be many things. It's been at least 2 hats. It was a different set of gloves before this, and maybe something else. I think I might be misremembering. I've had this for a long time, and I was just never really pleased with the way things were turning out. Part of it's the color. This is really color accurate right here, and it's definitely more of a wasabi green than what I kind of originally thought I would be getting when I bought it, which makes no sense because I was in the store holding it, could see the color, and still thought it was going to be, like, in my head, I had this vision of like a bright lemongrass kind of green, because I've seen some really beautiful pieces in that really bright yellow green, and being partial to yellow and green, I thought that would be a good investment, so I picked it up. I think originally to make a hat, and then I thought I didn't like the hat. That's what the other thing was part of a baby something, and it just didn't, the pattern didn't turn out, and I ended up ripping it out, because that actually didn't have anything to do with the yarn. But its most recent adventure was to be a pair of Eugenia's mittens, which I had one completed mitten done the last time I podcasted, and I was a little concerned that it was too short, and it would have probably blocked out, but I never got that far because 2 things. One, I decided it would be a good idea to try and make it a half mitt and then do the flip top, a convertible mitten, which I've made several convertible mittens for Paul, because he loses them every year, like a small child. So I had ripped it back thinking, instead of just trying to adjust the top and make it a little bit longer, I would just put in some ribbing around my knuckles, and then I would come back and do the flip top. So I did that, finished one, no problems, got started on the other. We had a snow day here. We've had a lot of snow, like a lot of snow. It's a couple feet. So they closed the college one of those days, so I had a day at home with nothing to do except to knit, and I knit like the whole other mitten, and then got done. and then realized that I had mixed up my needle sizes. So I have been using the first mitten I did on double points, size US size 3. These are just some clover double points, had them around for ages. And I knit probably up to here-ish on the double points. And then when I wrote back, I switched over to my interchangeables. These are highest that I use for everything. This is the only real needle set that I have. I have a couple of 16-inch circulars in sizes for hats that I use a lot, and a few DPN sets, but I use these pretty much for everything. I don't remember if I've talked about this on the podcast before, but I have a pretty, I wouldn't say severe, but I have really sensitive skin. So nickel-plated needles, they make my palms break out and like I get a rash. So I have to use steel needles. So these are stainless steel. They weigh like nothing. And I've got the small set, so it goes from US 2 through an 8. Anyway, so I had grabbed these, which I was working on a pair of Paul's mittens on and had finished one, and so they were free, and I thought it's easier to and faster for me to knit magic loop than it is with DPNs. So I pulled them out, and then I did the rest of the top third of the mitten, and then I did the entire second mitten on these. They are not US 3s. These were US 4s, which is not really noticeable when you're working on it, but turns out that it's extremely noticeable when you hold your mittens up together. One was a good 1.5 inches shorter, and I could see that although my side-to-side gauge was not huge, my row gauge was really off. So they were a lot longer, and they might have been wider too, except that I also, on the second mitten, I did not, when I finally figured out what I had done, when I split the thumb gusset off, instead of doing a couple of backward loop stitches to kind of put some stitches where you would across the gap there, I didn't do that. I just continued along in the round. So my stitch count was 2 off. So I had a mitten that was both longer and more narrow, and they just really did not look the same, and the ribbing was weird. So I put them away for the evening. They went in timeout, and I did something else. I think I probably worked on those cross stitch projects, but the next day we had the day off again because of snow, and I ripped the whole thing out, frogged the entire mitten, and I actually frogged the first one because the second one I found just fit just a little bit better anyway, and also the first mitten, if you recall last time, I had tried to steam block it to even things out a little bit before moving on to the second one, and accidentally burnt some of the yarn. I had little brown flecks in a couple of places where I'd accidentally touched the iron to the yarn, and when I reknit them, the difference in gauge between the two needles, and then that distributed those spots out enough that they weren't like right on top of each other anymore, so I can't see them. So there's no obvious places in the on the mitten where there's a burn mark. So there was that. There were also a couple of small errors in there too, because I was still kind of getting used to reading the chart. So I just started over with the second mitten, and because this yarn had been frogged and rewound so many times, and I would give it a shot with steam to kind of ease the worst kinks out before starting new things, but this time I properly re-skeined it on my Nitty Notty and washed it and let it dry, and yeah, so the yarn was not this wiry, kinky stuff. So now that I've talked about them, would you actually like to see them? I'm sure. Novel idea to show you the knitting that I'm doing. So these are 99.9% done. Here is mitten number 1. Nice fit up at the top. This is just a circular decrease. This is a free pattern on Ravelry, by the way, so if you like this, definitely go check it out. It's free, it's really easy to read. And here's mitten number 2. You can see the only thing that I have left to do is snip the thumb. So that's about 30 minutes of knitting maybe, which I'll probably get to this afternoon. And they do need a proper wash and block, but I'm pretty satisfied with them now that they're done and they are the same size, and I'm not, I'm ready to put this project behind me. I'm ready to put this yarn into service. Although I will say that, oh, and yes, I did not do the convertible top because by the time I got back to reknitting them, I was like, I just want to be done. And this is much faster. So, this is probably the neatest thumb gusset I have ever knit in my life. And I've been in the same way that you would close up the gap in socks, where you pick up an extra stitch in the ditch, I guess. I think that's a sewing term. Anyway, in the gap there, you pick up another stitch and then you just knit 2 together, and somehow it just had never worked like excellently in the past. And what I would end up doing is taking the tail of yarn from where I joined and doing some patching, which is pretty normal, and I think a fairly standard way to close up gaps like that. But for whatever reason, maybe in pity for me from reknitting this for like the 3rd time, the gods smiled on me and I got a decent thumb gusset. So that made it a little bit better. So there we have mitten number 1 and mitten number 2, and hopefully we'll get a thumb on those sometime today with luck. It's about 11 o'clock, I think, so it was plenty of time. So that is one. Second mitten project that I've been doing, because as I mentioned, Paul had lost his mittens from last year. He lost a mitten from last year, and one mitten does not do you much good. So I am knitting him again, another set. This is the Chili Podsters pattern, which is, I think, a Glenna. I'm so sorry, I can't remember her name. I'll put it down below or off to the sides like I usually do. But so this is the Chili Podsters pattern, and what that is it's fingered, half-fingered gloves, and then you do the convertible flap on the top. So I don't have the flap in yet, but you can see there is the hand is done. And the original pattern, this is also a free pattern on Ravelry, so you can go and check it out. Knit like four of these, I think. It does not have a cable detail on the front. I put that in because if I was going to be knitting a charcoal gray mitten, then I was going to make it more interesting than that, which this is a cable detail that I just have from a Stitch Dictionary, and I just dropped it right in, no problems. Got my 4 fingers there, and the thumb is a little wonky. I will fully admit the thumb is a little funky because I think I was getting a little bit too excited about doing the decreases, so it's not really straight, which is fine. It fits him just fine. What I also did there was I did basically like a buttonhole on the thumb. So when you stick your hand in, if you have the top over your fingers, you can still get your thumb out there, and it's pretty much still completely covered up. Yeah, I hope my video is turning out okay. It keeps lagging, but anyway, so there's the thumb there. I don't know if I will get around to doing the second one of these anytime soon, which is a bit of a shame because if he was ever going to need mittens, wool mittens, this week really would have been it, because we've had highs of like 20 and lows of like -4, which I know compared to some of the things in the Midwest or in Canada or something is really not significantly cold, but for here it is, and for me it is, and it's definitely cold enough to need knitwear. So yes, and I don't know if I said this is just again, this is just Cascade 220 Superwash. As much as I would love to knit him or knit with really lovely hand-dyed yarn, he's super duper hard on his mittens, so I wasn't gonna do something nice and then have them be destroyed. So I went to my local yarn shop and pet everything, and then picked up the plain old boring gray. So anyway, that is 40% of another pair of mittens. Another work in progress is a pair of socks. So these are the Stars Hollow socks. A lot of people were knitting these for the Gilmore Girls knit along, I think, which I was not participating in, but I just really loved the pattern with the slip stitch detail on the front. So I don't know if you can kind of see there. So I'm just past the heel. That's a Fish Lips Kiss heel. And yeah, this is my regular sock recipe, I guess. I mean, I'm using the pattern, but as my own stitch count, 56 stitches around. These are Chaogu US size 1, so 2.25 millimeters. And I knit most of this on Thanksgiving evening. Just blasted through like the whole foot of the sock, and then I really just haven't gotten around to touching it since then. Not because I wasn't enjoying it, because I really was. I just adore the cross, the little stars that you get. I just think it's so pretty. You know, it's a nice detail. I don't think I would ever knit lace socks. Oh, I think we may have a kitty coming. I don't think I'd ever knit lace socks necessarily, but I'm getting to the point where just plain vanilla socks is, hey bud, not as interesting anymore, which sometimes knitting plain vanilla socks is super comforting, and sometimes I want just a little bit of extra interest. So these really fit the bill there. And yes, I see you. You want to say hi? You might remember this guy from my first episode, and he's been sleeping on my bed. This is Mowgli. So, he's the world's biggest lap cat. So, this yarn is a Malabrigo sock. You might recognize it because it used to be in my day break, which has since been, I frogged back to the point where I had started switching colors. So right now it's just the top little bit of that yellow, you know, and I'm coming to the point where I think I just have to recognize that shawl knitting is never going to be something that I'm quick at. I love a finished project. I have multiple shawls, but they take me forever, so long. And I'm not entirely sure what it is, if it's the long rows or if it's the purling, which I don't, doesn't normally bother me. I knit continental, so purling is pretty quick. But that, yeah, that's just, it's on the back burner. It's a long project, I guess. Yeah. So anyway, this is the yarn from that Malabrigo sock. I believe the colorway is Aguas, A-G-U-A-S. So it's a lovely variegated blue, and that's really quite color accurate there too. So I'll be really pleased to pick these up again probably after Christmas. So that is another work in progress. Something else that I've been working on. This is something I was doing yesterday. I picked up a skein of Woolies something or other, something big and chunky, on Black Friday actually, which I had not intended to go Black Friday shopping, but we ended up out and about to pick up, of all things, cat food. And our grocery store is right next to the Michaels, and I popped in. I don't know, I think I originally went in for a specific color of floss for the cross stitch thing, and they did have yarn on sale, and I was thinking that I wanted some acrylic to make a gift hat for a friend of mine who I know needs something easy care. So this is, again, it's Woolies, I think thick, and it's, yeah, Lion Brand Woolies thick something or other. And it's a kind of a variegated foresty green. It's really chunky. I don't normally knit with things this thick, although I do kind of like the, you know, the big chunky knits. Although, here is problem number one. I don't have needles big enough for this yarn. What I ended up doing, and I'm using for this, is US 10s. What this really would have benefited from, and the way that I think it would have been quite a bit more better suited, would have been for something kind of big and lacy with like size 13s or something. So as it is, it's very, very dense. I had to cast on about 6 times to find a stitch count that both fit my head, because I'm just using my own head. It's like a general measurement. If it fits me, it'll fit anybody, because I have kind of a largest head, so it's not going to be too small. Okay, you went down. Go. All of this to say, I started with another hat. Because it's thick, it's going really, really quickly. And what it is this is not any particular pattern. I just made it up as I went along. So what it is, I cast on 60 stitches with the US 10, and then I have a, sorry, the computer is moving. Mowgli's playing with the box that it's sitting on. This is just a 4-stitch cable, and then I, stop it. And then I did a single cross every 6 rows. So that means that there are 10 cables on here, and then there's 2 purl stitches in between. And really all I have left to do are the decreases, because it's just about to that point where it's ready to decrease. And I don't really want it to be super slouchy, because I don't think it would slouch, because it's very dense. I mean, this is not tight, but it's not loose on me either. So I will, my list of crafty things to accomplish today would be to finish this. I thought it might be a Christmas present. It's not going to cross the country in time for Christmas. So it might just be a because I was thinking of you project. Yeah, so that's another one. Hat. Okay, one more work in progress. So I have been knitting a lot. I just haven't been finishing a lot, apparently. Is my ease. So there's nothing quite like having 20-degree weather to make you think about working on your wool sweater. So the last time we saw this, I had to go get my power outlet. As I was saying, this is my ease sweater. I had knit a good chunk of this last year and then realized that it wasn't fitting, and then ripped it back out. Started over from about right below my bust, I guess. So we have been making some progress on this. What I have now is a finished body and one whole sleeve. So I'm really quite pleased with this. I learned a new technique for the sleeve because I didn't have DPNs, and I guess I could have magic looped, but I think the longer needles that I had that would have worked for that were in another project. Anyway, I learned how to do knitting in around 2 circulars with this. And actually, funnily enough, the sleeve is half knit on a 7 and half knit on an 8 because I didn't have 2 16-inch circulars in the same size. So, but you really can't tell which one was knit any larger than the other. So it turned out perfectly fine. I'm really happy with it. It's quite big. This thing is going to be baggy, which was kind of the point, but this sleeve is like significantly large on my arms. So, but it's going to be nice and long, and yeah. So there's the body, and you can see that I started, I picked up the second, picked up for the second sleeve and had started on that. And I would, I should really just finish this. I want to pull it on actually, because there is never a more appropriate time to be wearing a full wool sweater than when it's freezing cold out. So yeah, there's the arm, and you know what, this actually fits better than I remember. So that's pretty much perfect, actually. And I did the the pattern has, you can either do like a cowl neck kind of thing, or you do some picking up around the collar. I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet. I thought that I would be playing serious yarn chicken with this. I really didn't think I was going to have enough. I had 4 skeins of Stonehenge Fiber Mills Shepherd's Wool Worsted, which is about, I think, just under 1,200 yards, maybe not even. I can't remember if it was just over 1,000 yards. I think it was just over 1,000 yards, because 1,200 would have been plenty, and I think is what is actually required for the small size, which is what I'm knitting. But I was afraid that I was going to run out, and I was actually kind of worried that I was going to have to make these 3/4 length sleeves or something, but as it turns out, I have an entire ball left to do a single sleeve, and even if I decide to lengthen it, which I don't think I'll need to, because it's, as you can see, it's coming down pretty far, and this hasn't been blocked yet, and I know it will grow, so now you've seen that. Getting tangled in all my yarn. Maybe putting this on camera wasn't the brightest idea. That's where I am with this one, so hopefully that'll be a finished object again. Not again, but it will be a finished object the next time I see you. There's that. I'm gonna, well, oh well. Let me just untangle myself. Sweater's off. Next thing. That's all my works in progress. Whew. Now I do have a significant number of acquisitions. So, one thing about filming this podcast has really made me come to terms with the fact that I buy a lot more yarn than I thought I did. Which is fine. And I just didn't really realize that I was purchasing quite as much. I kind of had this idea that I was always knitting from stash, which is not apparently really that true. Regardless, I have a fair amount of stash enhancements or augmentation, or however you want to get around it, and a lot of that has to do with Knit Pick sale. So Knit Picks does their Cyber Monday sale before Thanksgiving, which is actually the week before Thanksgiving, which is kind of funny. Don't! Cat. Stop. I ordered a bunch of yarn on their sale, and I don't feel bad about it at all, because although I got a ton of yarn, it was on serious discount, so I think altogether I spent maybe about $40 and got a boatload of yarn. Anyway, let me show you. First things first, I ordered for not the yoga shawl, the Ohm shawl by Andrea Mowgli, which is this big worsted weight, huge convertible wrap thing, and she has on her pattern page also a video of like all the different ways that you can wear it, and it's got some really great color work details and texture, which I love. So this is, I think, going to be a 2017 cast on, like New Year's cast on. So you pick 4 colors, and it's worsted weight, so it's going to go pretty quickly. I'm not as afraid of getting lost in the fingering weight. Getting lost in fingering weight shawl business like my poor Daybreak did. Anyway, so I bought Wool of the Andes for it, just their standard regular merino, Peruvian Highland wool, not merino, for it, and my colors were, for the main bodies, this oatmeal color, this is oyster heather, so this will be, the majority of the shawl will be this kind of cream. It looks like it might have just touches of variation in it, which I don't think Wool of the Andes really does, but I think that'll be pretty either way. This is going to be largely in texture, so there's the bulk of it. And in the colorwork sections, I have Persimmon Heather, Pampas Heather, I don't know what a Pampas is, and Blackberry. So these, wow, these two look great. This one, it's quite dark, but there you go. Okay, so it's a purple. you can kind of see what I mean. So I've got these 3 as the accent for the color work, and then there's that. And then there's the 4th one. So this will be an Ohm shawl at some point. And I have more of these skeins. Obviously, these are just 50-gram skeins, so I have a whole bag full of these. But those are the 4 colors that I chose. Another thing that I got was a sweater's quantity worth of the same thing. It's the Wool of the Andes, just in their sport weight and the colorway Current, which is a real dark red. I didn't want to like undo the package, but there you can see what it is. So lovely red. Given my track record with sweater knitting, I don't know when I'll get to this. This is just, I thought if ever there were a time to buy a sweater's quantity worth of wool, when it's less than $10, this would be the time to do that. So I picked a color that I loved, and we'll just see what it becomes. I don't have a project in mind for that one. I also got a couple of skeins of sock yarn. This first one is 80% superwash fine Highland wool, 20% polymade. This is the Hawthorne fingering in the colorway Burnside. And confession, I adore the Hawthorne colors. Well, let me say, I love the way that they're named because they're all Portland neighborhoods. So they're all really familiar to me. I get excited when I think about knitting with yarn that was named after a neighborhood that I actually lived in. So this is Hawthorne, what did I say, Burnside? I'm not really sure what it'll look like knit up. I really have no idea. There's just like this gigantic section of yellow in there, which kind of is funny to me. There's the other side of it. I thought this was going to be a lot darker. And this is actually a colorway that Paul picked out. He wanted a pair of socks out of this. So eventually someday they will be socks. I have to finish those god-awful Jimi Hendrix socks first, which I didn't even bother to bring out because I haven't touched them and I hate them. So yes, there's that. Let me rescan this really quickly. I have not a clue what it's going to look like, or if there will be patterned, or probably not. But that's another long-term, like, just goes in the stash bin of future socks. So, oh, that's a terrible rescanning job. Oh well. And the other one that I got was also Hawthorne, and the colorway is Buckman, and I accidentally bought this in the sport weight version instead of the fingering weight, so I was looking at this trying to figure out why it looked so much different. There's 258 yards in the, here we go, in the sport weight version, so I kind of think this might be actually a hat, like a socket hat kind of thing for me, maybe. Or it might just be sport weight socks for me. There's not enough yarn for Paul's feet, but there's certainly enough for me. And this is actually very similar colors to what's in that sport weight sweater yarn that I just showed you. So I don't know what it'll be, but I like it. And it's got that dark reds and purples and that pop of the electric blue, which I think is quite pretty. So like I said, this is Hawthorne Sport, and the colorway is Buckman. Also from the Knit Picks haul, they were having a crazy sale on their books. Their pattern books for like $2, $1.99 per pattern book, when they normally retail for around $15 to $20. So I bought a ton of books. The first one is Golden Morning. So this has a lot of like cozy cardigans and things that you might wear for lying around the house. Oh, there we go. Like that. There's one. I'm not going to show all of these because I literally do have 4 books here. But anyway, there's the Golden Morning. That's one. The other one was Northwoods. Some other things on here. They've got a couple of cardigans, a couple of sweaters, some men's patterns as well. Men's patterns. They could be anybody's patterns, but they were patterns written for men, I guess, which Paul might like to take a look at someday. So, hem. First Light is another one. This one has a ton of patterns in it. This one's quite thick. more of the drapey, cozy, wear at home kind of sweaters, things that I really like. So, and have not really ever made. So there's that. And then this might be my favorite of them. This is Charmed Whimsical Knitted Accessories. And I love the small things, guys. Hats and cowls and mittens and socks. Little things that you can just stuff in your purse. I just find them so satisfying. And these are all stinking cute. And they're just so cute. Oh my gosh. The cat chasing a ball of yarn on the hat. Oh man. Yeah, I think I would knit everything in here. This pair of fingerless gloves. A gnome hat. Oh my gosh, I haven't even looked at all of these. I'm so excited about this. There's the fox socks. Oh, and this is another color with some other, like brioche maybe? A cowl with some color in it. So this is hitting every single one of the things that I love. Texture, color work, and all on like projects that I could fit in one of my little bags. So I'm really very pleased about those purchases. So I really don't know when I'll get around to it, but I also like to be able to, besides the fact that I have the physical patterns now, you can add these in Ravelry to your library. So when you search your library, it will search the books that you actually have, which is just really nice, because then you don't have to worry about whether or not you actually need to purchase the pattern. You know that you've got it already. Those are there, and my last acquisition is, and I actually have two of these. So this is just Vanna's choice. Nothing special about it except the fact that it's pink. And what this is going to become, and what its mate will become, are pussy hat hats. The Pussy Hat Project is in support of the Women's March on Washington that will be happening on Inauguration Day in January. I will be unable to attend because I live on the West Coast and it's happening in Washington, D.C., but I have a couple friends who are local and who I believe will, I don't know if they're planning to go or not. I haven't actually spoken to them about that, but I think they would appreciate the show of solidarity, I guess. It's something that's very important to me. I don't really want to get into too much political type stuff on a crafting podcast, but this is a small way that I feel like I'm actually doing something, versus feeling like I'm just helpless to watch what's happening and not contribute in any way, or contribute monetarily, which is fantastic and it's great, and if you can, you should, but it's also not the most tangible thing. Like, I feel like I need to do something. Like, I need to actually make a choice, and be active in some way, and this is like the smallest, most insignificant thing that I could probably do, but I know I can do it, and that's a big thing for me. It's not so large that it feels like too large a mountain to climb, I guess, or something that I can't, I don't have the money or resources or time or whatever to do it. I know that I can. These are stockinette hats, and they're kind of tongue-in-cheek, obviously, but it's a craft that I know and I understand. Like, I know this is at my skill level, and it's in support of something that's important to me, and if I can send them off to either my friends or to the organization and rally, then that's one more person there that can be wearing a pink hat on that day. And so it's something I can do, and something that I will do directly after Christmas. That's not until, January 9th. So I have a little bit of time to do those. These are simple projects. Like I said, they're just small stockinette hats. So anyway, all this to say, I got some pink yarn yesterday because the idea is that the hats should be like fluorescent pink. So there it is. So the last thing that I want to talk about, and I just let you in. Now don't meow to go out, is a, not really a knitting discussion, but just a chat about some authenticity, I guess, in this podcasting adventure. One thing that I was looking for something that I had mentioned in a previous episode, and I found myself rewatching it a little bit, one of the earlier ones that I did back in the summer, and I felt like I was watching the version of Christine that she thought would be the best podcaster, I suppose. Like, it felt really fake, and it felt not like me, and I know a lot of that it's just like getting used to being in front of the camera and trying to figure out how you want to present yourself, and just getting used to this process. But the more I thought about it, the more I kind of came around to, it's kind of difficult to say, because I had built this up in a large way to be something that I was putting pressure on myself to do, and something that I was starting to feel badly about when I hadn't done it for a while. I don't know, the influence I suppose it's had on my crafting life, which sounds kind of ridiculous, but I don't ever want to force myself to do it, and B, I never want to be inauthentic, with the people that are watching. You out there, I don't have like the hugest viewership or anything, but if I'm going to be putting myself out publicly in any form, then I want it to be like a true expression of myself. And I felt like my earlier attempts at this were very much a veneer version of what I wanted you guys to see, I guess. Which is probably not remarkably different than what I am like most times. I feel I was maybe just trying too hard. So if you are podcasting, or if you're thinking about podcasting, I just really reinforce that this is for you. Even if it's like something that you do as part of your business, no one should tell you how to be you. And not that anyone ever has. I'm talking about my own brain here, and the nasty voice in the back of it that wants to tell me that I'm not doing things right, or that I'm not doing things good enough, and that I should just stop. And all of the gross anxiety and other things that can pop up when you kind of step out of your little private life. So, or even if you don't, because certainly that voice exists when I'm just me, but so those are just some thoughts that I was having, and I'm going to really make an effort to be as genuine as possible here in the future, I guess. I'm messy and somewhat disorganized, and sometimes I take huge stretches of time off, and my sometimes I have health issues that get in the way of being productive for these kinds of things, and honestly, I've got like 12 things scattered all around me, and I have no idea when I'm going to get to some of the larger projects, and that's just going to have to be okay. That's just going to be it. I'm sitting on the floor in my bedroom, and I haven't even brushed my hair today, and I'm filming for you guys, so, and this is the shirt that I slept in, so welcome to my actual life. So, oh man, I'm trying, like, as a personal growth thing, not just with crafts and podcasting, but I'm coming to a place in my life as a whole where being okay with who I am is something that I'm really trying to work on, I guess, and saying that who I am is perfectly fine, and that is imperfect, and occasionally a bit erratic, and all of the other inconsistencies and things that make people, and the great fabric of the human experience would certainly not be nearly as interesting or as beautiful if we were all homogenous and exactly the same. So I guess thank you for giving me the opportunity and a platform to practice that. So I guess this is just kind of what I wanted to put out there for myself, like to remember that. I guess if I'm saying it to people, then I have something to hold myself accountable to. So both in crafting and in life, I think there's applications there. So that's all I really wanted to say about that. If you have thoughts, I'd love to hear it. But until next time, I think I will leave you. Have a wonderful holiday season if you are celebrating in any way. I hope those celebrations go well, and if not, have a peaceful rest of December and New Year. So my heart with all of you. Go in peace. I'll talk to you later.